before moving to San Diego, I was a congregational rabbi for 17 years, then a regional rabbi for the Reform Movement's Union for Reform Judaism for 10 years. While at the URJ, I worked with a lay leader that I once confessed to as we were planning this astronomical number of details for a convention for over 300 Reformed Jews from over 50 synagogues, telling her that I was not by nature a detailed person. She responded with her slow Texas drawl, "Well, duh." A few years later, I returned to being a congregational rabbi where I belong. My heart has always been with the congregations of the Jewish people. And it has been the blessing of my life to serve this people, Israel, in the synagogue. When I worked for the URJ, I observed and experienced synagogues from a completely different perspective than a congregational rabbi can. And the more I learned, the more my love and appreciation of synagogues deepened. They are amazing communities. Look around you. Matovu. How beautiful are these places in which the Jewish people gather. All my experiences taught me what makes a great synagogue. And it is simply this: a community that is open, welcome, warm, compelling, kind, and all about making life and the world we live in better, gentler, more loving. When Eliza convinced me it was time to return to congregational work over 12 years ago, I was immediately drawn to Beth Israel. Though it had a difficult history of tsuris with senior rabbis, my training enabled me to see into the heart and soul of the community. And I could tell it was warm, loving, and kind. Eliza and I were welcomed to a Beth Israel that was strong and confident about its future, ready to partner with its new senior rabbi. With open arms and hearts, we were made part of your family. I am very aware that synagogues face new challenges, different from the ones I faced as a young rabbi. It's always been that way. And that's why many rabbis in my place, not far from retirement, feel a lot like Moses in the book of Deuteronomy. Moses has led his people as best he could, giving it his all on behalf of both God and the people he loved. But the time came for a new generation of leadership to tackle the new challenges. Part of Moses' greatness is that he realized that time had come. I have devoted myself as wholeheartedly and lovingly as I knew how to serving you during my time here. I'm no Moses. And while that's very true, like him, I have reached the time to turn over leadership to a generation better equipped to meet the challenges in the decades ahead. And like Moses, I have something to say about this community and those challenges. A few years ago, I had an uncomfortable email discussion with a national rabbinic leader who argued that after 2,000 years, synagogues were no longer the central institution of Jewish life. I know I'm rather invested on the other side of that debate, but I couldn't disagree more. On Rosh Hashanah, I told you I wanted to speak about Israel and the synagogue because I believe both are indispensable for Jewish survival. The challenges synagogues face are real and must be acknowledged and addressed. But synagogues will do what they've always done: find a way to adapt to the times and rise to the challenges. Beth Israel, too, has always demonstrated the kind of vigor, creativity, and strength that has enabled synagogues to endure all their ups and downs. And that's why Beth Israel has always been a center of Jewish life in San Diego, at least as long as there have been Jews in San Diego. Chief among the challenges synagogues struggle with is reaching our young adult Jews, who are skeptical about institutions and are generally not seen as joiners. This has made Jewish leaders worry that they won't join synagogues as the generations before them have rather faithfully done. But at the same time, the very fabric of our society is unraveling, leaving us without the thick, and in the words of past President Mitch Siegler, sticky social networks. All of us, young people included, need safe, warm, and inviting communities to bind our lives to. That is why the synagogue, which is probably the oldest continuous institution on the planet, is at the same time as relevant and needed as it has always been. And that's why, frankly, to this day, lots of young families seek out our preschool under the leadership of Kathy Goldberg. Our religious schools and youth groups have thrived under the leadership of Ava Kurnow and now Rabbi Gimbel and Gilad Hoffman. And it is why so many young people are drawn to Tribe, our young adult community under the leadership of Rabbi Solomon. People are drawn to Beth Israel because it's a second home. Unlike the mall across the street, by the way, this home actually cares about you. Here, everyone is accorded the honor they deserve. We who gave the people of the world the idea B'Tselem Elohim, humanity created in the image of God, we know the intrinsic worth of every human life. Everything synagogues do, including ours, is in service of this idea of respecting the dignity of every living person. In this world, with all its technology that was supposed to connect us more intimately, we are in fact more isolated than ever. More and more, we are learning what all that FaceTime with screens is doing to us, especially our children. What has always been true is still true. That latest iPhone announced last week is not going to make you happy. Relationships are the key to happiness. We know that people who live with dense social networks and lots of relationships flourish in life, while people who live with few social bonds are much more prone to depression and suicide. My friends, Jews have known this for over 2,000 years. Lo tov heyot adam levado. The Torah, in its very opening chapters, says it's not good for a person to be isolated and lonely. That's why God gave us families and community. That's why it has been correctly said of Jews, we are a hopelessly communal people. Those who came before us were not lonely or alone. They may have been living in awful conditions, but one thing they could always rely on was each other. When our great-grandparents lived practically on top of each other, their synagogue was the center of their lives, a zone of sweetness that brought them together and gave them rich texture to their sometimes materially miserable lives. They could always count on someone caring for them. Today we have broken and fragmented families. We have single parents struggling to raise children. We no longer live in neighborhoods that bind us together. In a society where we have to work hard to create bonds with others, we turn to the same place that those who came before us turned to in order to flourish, our synagogue community. That's where we can expect to find a caring community. In service to this idea, Beth Israel has placed caring at the very center of our culture. And we're grateful to the Dan and Phyllis Epstein family for their support of our caring community, which enabled Beth Israel to engage first Liz Levine and now Katie Lindley as what I call our CCO, Chief Caring Officer. Caring mitzvot now touch hundreds of lives of Beth Israel people, community, every year in times of joy and sadness. Thank God for Beth Israel. We have so much to be proud of. Beth Israel, a noble and honored name. I know my rabbinic colleagues agree with me on this. It is an awesome thing to be a rabbi at Beth Israel. It's kind of like our mitzvot, a burden of joy. Every time you come to Beth Israel, you are part of history. When you enter our courtyard, you are part of something big. You're part of the family of Rabbi Cantor Arlene Bernstein, who has selflessly given to this congregation every ounce of her love and compassion. You are in the place that Ima Helene Schlafman has lovingly taught you and your children for half a century. When you come to Beth Israel, you are a student of all those self-made Torah scholars in our Shabbat Torah study. When you come here, you come to the place where Cantor Merrill still stirs souls in prayer. The creativity and vibrancy of Jewish people is staggering. Beth Israel for over 150 years is proof of that. We have done terrific things, but there is more to do. My goal has been to help you reach this moment of transition with strength and confidence in your future. I hope that I have accomplished that in some small way. I know that if you partner with my successor as you did with me, you will meet the challenges ahead. You will continue to build a great temple, one that inspires its members in new ways to live Jewish lives, make Jewish choices, and cleave to this people Israel. You will find new ways to build a temple community that is compelling enough to capture hearts and souls in the years to come. There are a lot of issues I could have spoken about this evening. The world's a mess. I've chosen instead to speak to you from my heart about the place where our people develop the character that teaches us how to respond to that world out there. I'm speaking tonight about deepening your engagement with the place that will help you understand what repair the world needs and what kind of person you should be. I'm talking about the place that gives you deep roots into a community that has been around for 20 centuries, inspiring Jews with its wit and wisdom, its stories and soul-searching prayers, its song and poetry, its children and grandchildren, its love and its warmth. Elie Wiesel tells a story that speaks to the kind of Jewish spirit those who came before us bequeathed to us. It took place in what he calls the kingdom of night. In one of the barracks of a concentration camp, several hundred Jews gathered around to celebrate Simchat Torah. But there was no Torah. How could Jews dance with joy without a Torah in their arms? As they were trying to solve this problem, an old man noticed a young boy. "Do you remember what you learned?" asked the old man. "Yes, I do," replied the boy. "Really?" said the old man. "You really remember Shema Yisrael?" "I remember that and much more," said the young boy. Shema Yisrael is enough. And with that, the old man lifted the boy from the ground, put him on his shoulders, and began dancing with him, as though he were a Torah. And then they all joined in. They sang and they danced. They cried, but they sang with fervor. Never before had Jews celebrated Simchat Torah with such fervor, commented Wiesel. My friends, we are the children of that old man who remembered that Jews must dance. The heirs of that young boy who remembered who he was and what he had been taught. Beth Israel exists, so there will be a place where Jews dance and children learn Shema Yisrael. My friends, please, make sure Beth Israel continues as a loving, open, caring, strong spiritual home. So everyone in this family takes pride in their community and love and support it with all their might. It's not up to someone else. It's not up to the board. It's not up to your new senior rabbi. It's up to you. May God bless you. May God bless you with Abraham's courage to begin anew. May God bless you with Jacob's determination to transform himself into Yisrael. May you have Rebekah's vision. May God bless you with new Torah and new life in this house of Israel. Beth Israel has been given to you as a gift. Hold it in trust. Love it as I have. And make sure it remains a place where children learn Shema Yisrael and Jews remember to dance.